Imagine becoming the Pope and realizing the chair was never fully yours. The world sees one man in white and calls him the highest authority in the Vatican. Cameras follow him. Crowds wait for him. Governments listen when he speaks. For millions, his words are not just opinions. They are direction, comfort, warning, and meaning. But the deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. Because the Pope does not stand above history, he inherits it. Centuries of law, ritual, political memory, sacred tradition, quiet alliances, old wounds, invisible boundaries built long before he arrived. That is what most people miss. The Vatican is not just led by a man. It is protected by a system. So if you want to understand why the most visible person in the Vatican may not be the most free, like this video and subscribe before we enter level 1. Because before you can understand the Pope, you have to understand the machine that makes the Pope possible. The Vatican is not just a religious place. That is the first mistake most people make. They see marble, ceremonies, robes, crowds in St. Peter's Square, and one man stepping onto a balcony. It feels like the entire institution is moving through him. But that is only the surface. Behind that image is something older, colder, and more complex. The Vatican is a spiritual symbol, but also an administrative machine, a diplomatic network, a legal system, and a memory bank of decisions, conflicts, reforms, rituals, alliances, and rules that do not disappear because a new pope arrives. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. In finance, corporations, politics, and religion, the highest title does not always mean the most freedom. A CEO answers to a board. A president answers to institutions. A billionaire answers to markets, regulators, reputation, debt, and time. The higher you climb, the more you realize power is not just making decisions. Power is access. Power is who sees the information first. Power is who defines the rules before everyone else follows them. Power is who survives when leaders change. So to understand who really holds power here, we cannot start with the Pope. We have to start at the bottom. Level 1, the invisible worker. You arrive before most people notice the day has started. The halls are quiet. The Vatican has not yet filled with visitors. Priests, officials, guards, and cameras. But before anyone looks up at the beauty, someone has to make the place look untouched by human effort. That someone is you. You clean, repair, carry, polish, maintain, prepare, secure, and quietly keep the machine moving. You walk through corridors tourists dream of seeing once in their lifetime. You pass doors that lead to rooms where history has been argued, protected, buried, and rewritten. You are physically close to power, sometimes only a few steps away from it. But closeness is not access. No one asks what you think. No one explains why one room matters more than another. No one tells you what was decided behind the door you just cleaned outside of. You are necessary, but invisible. Without people like you, the Vatican does not run smoothly. But your name never becomes part of the story. At this level, your value is real, but your access is almost zero. And inside any serious system, that is the difference between being useful and being powerful. Level 2, the keeper of paper. Now you move from the hallway into the office. At first, it feels like progress. You are no longer only maintaining the physical structure. Now you touch the flow of information. Schedules, letters, reports, requests, appointments, files, archives, emails, signatures. You begin to understand that the Vatican is not only ceremony and prayer. It is paperwork, timing, protocol, approval, silence, and sequence. But then the uncomfortable part appears. You may handle the document, but you do not define what it means. You may prepare the meeting, but you are not invited into the decision. You may know something is moving before others do, but knowing is not the same as controlling. This is where people confuse information with power. They see the memo, They hear the tone in the hallway. They feel powerful because they are no longer blind. But they are still not free. They can see the current, but they cannot redirect it. At level 2, access becomes awareness, but awareness is not control. Level 3, the local priest. Now people know your name. They come to you when life becomes too heavy to carry alone. They bring grief, guilt, fear, confession, marriage, death, doubt, and hope. You are no longer invisible. You matter directly to real people. This is a different kind of power. Not institutional power, but emotional power. People trust you. Your words can calm someone in a hospital room. Your presence can help a family stand together at a funeral. Your guidance can make a person feel forgiven, seen, or strong enough to continue. But here is the limit. You can comfort people inside the system, but you cannot rewrite the system itself. You can lead a community, but you do not define the institution. You speak through teachings, rituals, and boundaries that existed long before you arrived. You are a guide, but you are not the architect. You can be loved, respected, and remembered, and still be far from the center. Level 4, the regional commander. As a bishop, your world expands. You no longer lead one community. You oversee churches, priests, conflicts, and problems that become serious if ignored. Your decisions no longer touch one room. They move across an entire region. This is where power becomes heavier. A priest thinks about the person in front of him. A bishop must think about the network behind that person. Who leads which parish? Which conflict must be handled before it damages trust? Good intentions are not enough now. A soft heart without structure creates chaos. A strong decision without compassion creates damage. You manage part of the system. You inherit problems you did not create, expectations you cannot satisfy, and consequences others may never understand. People below you think you have authority. People above you think you have responsibility. You are caught between both, powerful enough to be blamed, not powerful enough to be free. Level 5, the visible insider. As an archbishop, you move closer to the center. Your name travels farther. Your words carry more weight. You enter larger conversations, closer to where major decisions are shaped. At first, visibility feels like power. People recognize you. They study who you meet, what you support, and what you refuse to say. But then visibility changes shape. At lower levels, you wanted to be seen. Now being seen becomes pressure. Every sentence can be interpreted. Every silence becomes a signal. Every gesture can look like loyalty, ambition, hesitation, or resistance. You are more powerful now, but less private. The system gives you influence, then uses you as a symbol. And symbols do not move freely. Visibility is not freedom. Sometimes visibility is surveillance with respect. Level 6, the cardinal who chooses kings. Now you are near the heart of the machine. As a cardinal, you are part of the group that can help choose the next pope. That changes everything. You do not just serve power anymore. You help decide who will wear it. The world may focus on the white smoke, the balcony, and the face that appears. But before that moment, there are conversations outsiders never hear, histories they never understand, loyalties they cannot map, and pressures they will never see clearly. Your vote may help choose the man the world will call the top. But even here, you are not completely free. You are surrounded by tradition, watched by history, and carrying expectations that cannot bend to one faction, one crisis, or one moment. The fear here is not being powerless. The fear is knowing your power may outlive your explanation. Because one decision can affect millions, and not everything considered in the room can ever be said outside it. If you see that real power is the mechanism that chooses the title, subscribe before the final levels. This is where the illusion breaks. Level 7, the Holy Prisoner. You are now the Pope. To the outside world, this is the top, the white robe, the global voice, the highest visible authority in the Catholic Church. Your words move across nations. Your decisions are studied, criticized, feared, and remembered. But the moment you reach the top, you inherit the cage. You do not begin from zero. You begin inside centuries of law, doctrine, ritual, diplomacy, advisors, expectations, reforms, alliances, and wounds left by those before you. If you move too fast, you risk breaking the structure. If you move too slowly, you risk losing the world. Everyone thinks power means doing what you want. But here, power means changing something without destroying the thing that gives your authority meaning. You lead the institution, but you do not stand outside it. Level 8, the system that outlives everyone. And then the final level appears. No robe, no face, no balcony. No single human being you can point to and say, that is the top. Because the highest level of Vatican power is not a person. It is the system that makes every person meaningful. Canon law, ritual, tradition, memory, diplomacy, administration, sacred symbolism, succession, silence, and the belief that this institution must continue when every individual inside it disappears. That is what makes it so powerful. The system does not need to win one election, survive one news cycle, or depend on one leader. It wins by lasting longer than everyone. The worker leaves. The employee is replaced. The priest grows old. The bishop is moved. The cardinal dies. Even the pope becomes one chapter in a book written long before him. And that is the coldest truth. The pope is not weak. The pope is powerful. But his power matters because the system recognizes it, protects it, frames it, and limits it. So this was never only about the pope. It was about how power hides itself. In finance, corporations, politics, and markets, people stare at the balcony and miss the structure underneath it. So do not ask who has the title. Ask who writes the rules. Ask who controls information. Ask who chooses the next leader. Ask what remains when the leader is gone. Once you see the system, the throne stops looking like the top. It becomes a position inside something much larger. If this changed how you look at power, like, subscribe, and comment which level surprised you most. Next, we will break down the systems people see every day but almost never understand.